Okay, so sorry about the little dip-de-doo there, slipped. What we've done here is we've basically reconnected the hoses back to their original position. So the hose from the pump to supply line goes to the bottom of the this would be the accumulator tank, and then it passes through and it goes into the bottom of the hot water tank, and then the hot water outlet is now connected to the hot water supply line. So at this point we've got antifreeze that will be going into the bottom of the hot water tank. We're not going to fill it, we're just going to run it until we get red coming out of the hot water tank, and at that point we'll know that it too is winterized. And so we've turned on the pump and away we go. Pumping, I see red through the clear hose here, and we see that the antifreeze is expressing out the remaining bits of clear water, and now that stream is turning red, and we have basically winterized now the whole system, including the hot water tank. I'm just going to let that drain. The important thing to note is that it no longer has any water in it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the pump, and you can see the pump has two hoses. The black hose is the supply line. It basically comes from the water tank, and the red hose is the pressure line that pressurizes the boat. We're going to remove the red hose. We're going to replace it with this bit of black hose, and we'll now pump out the remaining antifreeze from the tank so that it starts off empty the supply tank at the back of the boat in the lazarette. Okay, see you in a minute for the next segment. So here we are back at the pump, and you can see that I've replaced the outlet hose, which was red, with a black hose, and that length of hose basically is just a short bit of heater hose that now is empties into a container. So we'll start the pump again, and we'll proceed to retrieve most of the antifreeze that we deposited in the supply tank, thereby emptying it, which is a good thing because next spring we want to have to flush it just minimally. So if we fill it with fresh water a couple of times, even just the bottom of it will flush out the rest of the antifreeze, and then we'll have nice fresh tasting water for the summer next year. Okay, I'll come back with the next segment once I've got these babies refilled. Bye for now. So there you are. Just wanted to do a quick review here. We now have the temporary hose back off the pump and stored in its little corner here for ready for next fall. We've reattached the red hose to the intake side of the pump, and we've reattached all the hoses to the to each of these respective systems to go to both the hot water tank as well as the pressure tank, and everything is working. We leave the hot water tank spigot open. It's still dripping a little bit of antifreeze. Once again, there's no reason to close it at this point in time, but the only thing that will need to be done in the spring is once we fill the fresh water tank and start the pump running, water will be coming from this tank, and we will close it at that time once we flush out the antifreeze, clearing that out and minimizing the aftertaste and the duration of aftertaste in the water. It does take a couple of good flushes, but it's not that long and it's not that bad. It does go away. So at this point, that's pretty much it. We're ready to go. All our plumbing is back in order, so we don't have to refigure it out in the spring, which is really good. That's a fairly new discovery on my part. And while we're down here, just wanted to make note of a couple of things. You see these bolt and nuts that are on the inside of the boat here. These are the additional measures that we've taken to strengthen the boat while we had all the chines apart. So these are carriage bolts that affix the outer chine to the inner chine, and that affix that bottom plank right through frames. So that one there is a really good example where you can see that that bolt goes right out through the chine. So it basically is bolting the chine to the frames, immensely strengthening the boat. And you can see over here, here's a nut that I forgot to paint, but you can see that this has been an addition to the way these things were built originally. This boat is much improved as a result of it. So it's not screwed together anymore, it's bolted together at the corners here. So that's a very, very good illustration of some of the work that we've done. The other thing here is that you'll notice this is the cross member that is the most affected by haul-outs, whether it be by a travel lift or by a trailer. So what we've done here is, instead of having just two frames across like the standard here, we now have on this particular frame 3 members. So this has basically been sistered, 2 mahogany frames with a white oak frame. So it's immensely strong once again, and they're all screwed together as they run the length of the width of the boat. So just a couple of measures that were taken to improve the boat while we had it apart, cleaning up those corners. So, okay, that's it for now. Next step will be to drain the oil out of these engines, but first I have to do a warm-up and get everything running for 10-15 minutes, get it up to temperature, and then we'll be able to change the oil in these, and then we'll be done for the season. Unfortunately, too short, too much fun, but looking forward to next year. Okay, bye for now, until the next segment. And oh yes, I did forget to basically close the loop on the recovery of the antifreeze. Basically, we put 4.5 of these jugs in, and we get 2.5 of these jugs back. Basically, we're using up maybe 20 liters of antifreeze and throughout the whole plumbing system, including everything that we spilt and wasted overrunning the draining. So that's it. That's what's bottom line is. It's about $20 worth of antifreeze a year. It's pretty easy and inexpensive to protect a boat. All right, next segment in a minute. Okay, so here we are back in the engine room. We've just kind of set up here to extract the oil from the main drive engines. I've removed the dipstick, as you can see here, and down the dipstick hole, or dipstick tube, I'm inserting the extraction tube, making sure it goes right to the bottom of the sump. And there we are, we're on the bottom, and then we quite simply just grab hold of the handle on the extraction device, which is really a big vacuum pump, and we provide a few strokes, and there we go, we're extracting oil. So back in a few minutes when we've finished doing this particular part of the job. Quite simple. Just set up your extraction pump next to the engine, run the extraction line to the engine, and pump away, and pretty soon that'll be empty. Alright, nice and clean. So there we go. The sound that you hear is the pump sucking air from the bottom of the sump from the oil pan. And you can see we've got a goodly amount of oil here in the vacuum pump basin or container. So that means that we're pretty much done with this engine in terms of sucking the oil out. Now the next little jobby is actually removing the oil filter. The oil filter, I've loosened it by hand here. You can see it is turning by hand. But before trying to get it off, I'm basically going to envelop it with a grocery bag so that we can catch, and it's got a couple of rags in the bottom of it so that we can catch any drips of oil as the oil filter is removed. We'll lay it down then on a flat surface on its bottom and suck the oil out of that one too. But that's how it's done, with a minimum of fuss and muss. Here we go. See you next episode. Okay, so the oil filter is now out of there, and it's pretty clean down there. We do have a few drops of oil that we have to clean up, but it's better than having to clean up a half a liter or 3/4 of a liter of oil, which can happen if these things slip out of your grasp anyway. And you can see from the looks of the bag here that it is indeed a little bit messy. But it's inside the bag, which is okay because the bag's going to be discarded along with the rag to soak up that oil. So we're in good shape. The next thing that we're going to do, of course, is we're going to suck the oil out of the filter itself and prepare it for proper disposal. Once again, at the Hazardous Waste Recycling Center at the Huronia Recycling Center and Waste Center. So all told, it's really not that messy a job, considering you're saving yourself probably $400 doing it yourself. It's a good deal, and you get to learn a bit about your boat. Alright, next episode coming up.